Action!
My name is Ali LaVecchia and I live in Medford, New Jersey. Well, I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm a writer, and a director. I guess I started my acting in high school, and just out of a curiosity, and maybe because of the fact that my mother and I watched so many of the old movies in the 30s and 40s late at night, and she used to come home and talk from beauty salon experiences about Screenplay magazine and all the stars. We'd kind of muddle over all the different types of things we were seeing in the movies themselves, as well as the actors. So I was fascinated from an early time, and I also did a lot of role playing like most kids do. You tend to play different roles, I guess, as characters when you're little. A librarian, stewardess was one of my favorites, a cowboy, Nancy Drew, because I read all the books. So I used to do that and rope in all the neighborhood kids. I guess the idea that there's spontaneity, you can be inventive, you can be creative, lose yourself in a character, be somebody you're not. And as you're growing older doing that, you discover more about yourself. You discover that there are things you like about yourself and there are things you don't like about yourself, but you elicit them and you put them into the characters, and that helps, I think, the audience members to also relate to many of the people that you're playing. So it's good in two different ways, so I get a lot out of it. I guess early in theater days, I did a lot of the backstage work initially because I was a little intimidated by the audition process until I started doing some small stage work, some summer stock things at college, where I knew there would be smaller audiences, less competition, and hopeful, attainment of roles. And once I got used to what that process was about, I got more comfortable. So I got to see it from backstage first, and then worked in smaller things before I started to try to accomplish something larger. As far as directing goes, you had to kind of maybe struggle against the odds to see if you had an opportunity to be a student director initially, get your feet wet, and then once people trusted your creativity, because I think as an actor, you tend to put a lot of yourself into the characters you're working with as you're directing. So when people realize that you have some of what it takes to make the show come off and be effective, that you know what you're doing, then you get more opportunities to come your way. But it's difficult in the beginning, but you hang in there. I do a lot of research. I rely a lot on my own instincts, my own gut reactions when I first read through a script, and then I start kind of doing a backstory. I always tell a lot of my acting students that I coach, it's really important to do your homework, try to develop a whole background to the character so you know what their life was about. Otherwise, the words that are coming out of their mouths in the scripts that you're doing don't make sense to you, and the characters' lives are told through the words they're saying, so there are lots of hints and clues in them, but you still have to fill in the gaps, or else you can't really do a believable performance. I like to try to just kind of do a general reading of a script and then poke around in their heads, see how they interpret a character. I don't like to give them too much direction in terms of how to play the role. I really like to rely on their own creative juices. I find some actors lean more heavily on the director telling them more or less what they expect. But I like them to take risks. Sometimes things work and sometimes they don't, because I think that directors have a certain vision of the way a scene is done, a way a character is delivering a line, the way the blocking goes, whether it's on the stage or in front of the camera. So you have to kind of find a good balance, and usually in doing that, magic will happen. And it's always those unexpected moments that become brilliant. And then of course in theater you try to recreate those. At least in film you can capture it, because you have several takes. But in a show, as an actor, you're hoping that you can recreate that magic moment, and the director's hoping for it too, but it doesn't always happen so easily. I think that it depends on their level of experience, truthfully. Some of them think they know what they're doing really well, and they don't, so they're going to give you some things that might sound off the wall, and maybe a couple of them will work, but I think your more experienced actors might be able to give you some better ideas because they've been through more roles, they've been on more film sets, or they've been on stage more, and they kind of have a better understanding of what small things look like as well as big things look like, for the audience. So I'd say, you can get ideas from them, but again, take the time to sift through them and thank them and tell them, no harm done if something's not used. Appreciate your creative energy. I may use things, but I'm the boss still, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, Oh gosh. It's kind of scary. I'm going to say probably 50-50. It depends on the type of role. The harder roles to play are probably the ones that are more truthful to who you are, because you're really putting it out there on the line that you're so much like that character, and the nuances are sometimes hard to actually create. The more distance you are from a character, the easier I think it is to play, because you can really kind of take a lot of chances and go out on a limb and be the villain that you would maybe always like to be, but you can't be in real life. So that comes maybe a little easier, a little less challenging than things that are even closer to yourself. So you always have something you're putting in there that has to do with you, because you draw from your own personal experiences so many times, your own relationships with people that you have. The good, the bad, and the ugly, as I say, I'll take acting first. Acting is a passion. And I think if people really enjoy performing, no matter what the performing art is, especially acting though, you get to do so much with your imagination. You get to really be inventive. Lots of actors work from inside out, they say, or from outside in. Some people are known to put a costume on and have certain things in their pockets, and the next thing you know, the character comes to life. Other people tend to find that if they work from the inside, they do the hard work emotionally, then they can determine more or less what the behaviors are and movements and things like that. So I'd say that's probably the hardest part, but the joy of it as well. In directing, I don't know. It's really hard to kind of grapple with that one, because everything you're doing is different. I know characters are different, but you're seeing a whole picture when you're directing, so you've got to really take into consideration not just the language of the play or the screenplay, but you have to really take into consideration what's it looking like. How's the lighting going? Are we framing it the right way? If you're on a stage, do you have enough levels, tableaus? Are people moving in a certain way that makes it interesting for somebody to look at it? I've always wanted to do like the writing, acting, directing thing, kind of like Clint Eastwood does. It's the triple threat of writers, and it's hard. Yeah. Much like in musical theater, you have to be a good singer, actor, and dancer. That's the triple threat. I think in film, like you dream that you can be the person who actually says the words of a certain character, because you always tend to find that there's a character that's in what you write that really resembles a lot of who you are, because you know yourself the best, and you tweak it so that it hides a lot of flaws, and you might pop out other ones for other reasons, but I think it would be very challenging to direct myself, because I'd have to worry about what everybody else is doing and then kind of get myself fit into the picture. So if I could have a dream job, I would be trying to do all three things together, I've done producing, the theater, a lot of the producing work as well as the directing work, and I've enjoyed that, but it can be trying, and I think it can be trying because it depends on if you have the right production team or not. I was fortunate when I was in high school for like 31 years. I had an incredible, a magical production team. They were phenomenal. We could bounce ideas off of each other. It was like having a marriage after a while. You know, you could pick up exactly where the other guy was thinking because you knew. You know, we just were like a heartbeat together. And other times I was working as a production leader, you know, and a director in community theater, and sometimes acting, like doing a little bit of that. And I found it really hard because some of the people were extremely stubborn, didn't want to budge on their thought process. And if any of us know as performers, no matter what we're involved in the industry, there's give and take. You know, there's give and take. There's got to be a final decision, obviously, because usually money has to be made, money's being spent, you know. So you really do need to know in what direction you want to head, finally, you know, what the outcome is going to be, what you're looking for. But I think that's probably it. I think this area is hopping, and I believe that Hollywood in the last 5 years especially is beginning to see that and realize all the kind of great opportunities that lie here in terms of locations, in terms of talent. We have unbelievable amounts of talent that are within New Jersey and the Philadelphia area. And I just think we're beginning to get people seeing, tapping into it. We're blessed being in this environment because of the fact that we're so close in proximity to New York and to Baltimore, and a lot of great things can happen here. So I think we have an awful lot to offer. I think people are just beginning to open their eyes to that, which is good. Acting-wise, I'd probably say start with knowing what you do well yourself. You may have certain natural talents that you've never really thought about grooming before. And then certainly pursue doing more skill development. You know, the more you know how to do in this business, the better it is for you. And don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to learn, take classes, do the things that you feel the most frightened of. As a director, I think the same types of things. See more work. See what other people do. Talk to other directors. Just as much as you network with actors, you really need to do that with directors. Get into their heads. Have them think, you know, things through with you if you're working on something for the first time. But dare to be different. Try and experiment. And the more you do it, the more you'll inspire yourself to keep pushing yourself further and further. And you'll get better at what you do. But you do have to trust yourself, you know, and be willing to take some risks and get out there and do the hard work. And I'd say maybe one last thing that a lot of times actors, directors, writers, they don't think about is you need to know how to market yourself. You really need to know how to toot your own horn. Don't be arrogant, you know, but be confident. And get out there and get to know people and let them see what you can do. My name is Ali LaVecchia. I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm a writer, and I'm a director.